Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. From the lake bed to the shore of Taal Lake, authorities recover more evidence they hope would solve the missing Sabongeros case. More sacks believed to contain human remains have been found on the second day of search and retrieval operations.
And in an effort to curb the promotion of online gambling among the population, PAGCOR has ordered the dismantling of all billboards and other physical ads related to the habit. Online content creators have also been warned to take down content promoting illegal gambling or face charges.
And the first ever bilateral meeting between President Bongbong Marcos and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump is slated to happen in less than 2 weeks. This comes as the United States announced a punishing 20% tariff on Philippine goods, which will come to pass if negotiations fall through.
Sana makuha yung mga missing sabongero na yan. Napatunayan ko lahat ng sinasabi ko na hindi pagsisinungaling.
Kasi hindi naman nagtatapos lang ito sa makuha yung katawan nila. Kailangan talaga may managot.
More sacks containing bones have been found as the Philippine Coast Guard begins its technical dive at Taal Lake. But it looks like there's still a long way to go before authorities actually find out if these actually belong to the missing Sabongeros. Mobile journalist Arles de los Santos with tonight's big story.
36 Philippine Coast Guard divers took turns scouring through two areas in the town of Laurel. This is a portion of Batangas where two informants supposedly told the Justice Department to look. The site covers part of Taal Lake where bodies of dozens of Sabongeros were allegedly thrown, according to self-proclaimed whistleblower Julie Dondon Patidongan alias Totoy. In the afternoon of Thursday, Site Assessment Day, a sack containing bones believed to be from a human was discovered. And on Friday, the first day of the official search and retrieval operation, more sacks were found. But the packages will not be opened until a prosecutor and an NBI personnel are present. Investigators should also be there to witness the opening of the sacks so they could immediately determine if what's inside constitute pieces of evidence. At the moment, 4 sacks of bones are now at the command center set up by the NBI forensics team, CIDG, and the scene of the crime operatives. Authorities likewise need to see if these are actually human bones. According to DOJ Assistant Secretary Miko Clavano, confirmation would take 24 to 48 hours. DNA samples have already been retrieved from relatives of missing Sabongeros in preparation for the next step, which is identifying to whom the remains belong. That's only if there's verification that remains belong to humans. Once the DNA samples do not match any of the Sabongeros' relatives, this means authorities have a different case on their hands. Meanwhile, families of the disappeared Sabongeros went to the Fishport. That's to see for themselves how retrieval operations are going. Relatives of still missing online Sabong master agent Ricardo Lasco hopes his remains would still be found. At this point, and after years of waiting for his return, Ricardo's family just want to at least give him a decent burial.
Sana yun na yung kapatid ko eh, di ba? Sana siya na yun. Para at least we can finally put him to rest and then kumuha pa rin ng hustisya. Kasi hindi naman nagtatapos lang ito sa makuha yung katawan nila. Kailangan talaga may managot dito sa nangyari rito. Ibang klase kasi talaga eh.
News 5 also exclusively interviewed Patidongan, who's currently under the PNP's protective custody. He believes the sacks initially retrieved in Taal Lake are all proof that he is telling the truth about the fate of the missing Sabongeros.
Ngayon, alam na ni Mr. Atonghang na si Dondon Patidongan na hindi na nagsisinungaling. Pangalawa, salamat ako sa Panginoon na nadinig din yung aking pagdasal na sana makuha yung mga missing Sabongero na yan. At least kahit papaano napatunayan ko lahat ng sinasabi ko na hindi pagsisinungaling.
Patidongan challenged the personalities he's implicating in the crime to take a lie detector test. These include businessman and gambling industry tycoon Atong Ang and PCSO chairman and former regional trial court judge Felix Reyes.
Kaya nanawagan ako kay Mr. Atong Ang, paano mo ngayon ito sagutin? Kung totoong nagsisinungaling ako, Mr. Atong Ang, yan ang tandaan mo. Willing ako magpa-lie detector.
Siya, hinahamon mo rin siya ng lie detector, sir?
Yes, hinahamon ko yan. Pati yung isang ex-judge, si Judge Felix Reyes. Ahamonin ko silang dalawa, magpa-lie detector kami.
Ang and Reyes do not have new statements aside from those they released several days ago. Both have vehemently denied Patidongan's accusations, questioning his credibility, moves to turn him from suspect to state witness. For its part, Malacanang assures there will be no cover-up in the case.
Sa Pangulo po, dapat po talaga ay mas alamin pa kung ito pong mga natagpuan ay talaga may kinalaman po sa nasabing kaso ng mga missing sabongeros. At kung ito po ay mapapatunayan talagang konektado, ito'y nagpapakita lamang na ang Pangulo at ang kasalukuyang administrasyon ay tutulong upang makamtan ang hustisya para sa mga biktima.
Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
In other news, PAGCOR has ordered the immediate removal of all gambling billboards and ads, including those on public transport. Licensees must comply by August 15 and submit ad inventories by July 16.
When we all noticed that all these massive billboards were just mushrooming all over Metro Manila and our tollways, ako mismo na-alarma na. So we got in touch with the Ad Standards Council and quietly we were working on regulation. Ad Standards Council has told us that they will make now gaming or gambling, the gaming industry, part of their industries na i-monitor nila. Pretty soon, you will notice, mawawala na lahat yung malalaking billboard na yan. ASC will standardize the size.
For its part, the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center has given social media influencers until the end of the week to remove posts promoting illegal online gambling. Failure to comply will prompt CICC to work with platforms to remove the content directly. The agency will also send letters to influencers and platform operators requesting explanations to avoid legal actions.
In other news, the Department of Migrant Workers has reported that the number of Filipinos rescued from the ill-fated ship, the MV Eternity Sea, is now up to 8. That is out of 21 Filipino crew members of the vessel. One by one, details have also come to light on what exactly happened to the ship. Drone video showed the MV Eternity Sea causing an oil spill as Houthi rebels successfully sank it after the attack on Sunday. According to the Department of Migrant Workers, 5 Filipinos were among the first rescued, including the captain of the ship.
May 3 pang nahanap, kaya 8 na sila ngayon at hindi ko lang i-disclose kung anong current location nila, but rest assured they are safe.
The DMW had earlier said that 3 Pinoy seafarers have been confirmed dead. Government has already pledged help for the grieving families. Vice President Sara Duterte also sent her condolences to the families of the victims.
Aming pakikipagdalamhati sa pamilya ng 3 nating kababayan na OFW seafarers na namatay sakay ng MV Eternity Sea. Aming pinagdarasal ang hustisya para sa kanilang 3 at kaligtasan ng kanilang mga kasamahan.
Meanwhile, the European Union's Maritime Security Mission reported that 1 Greek national and 1 Indian national, as part of the ship personnel, had also been saved. The Houthis, who perpetrated the attack, said they actually saved and treated some of the seafarers, but they did not provide an exact number of those under their custody. Per DMW's investigation, the MV Eternity Sea passed by the Red Sea twice before they got attacked. They have not followed some risk documentation, which is why the license of the manning agency got suspended.
For the purpose of Baka kasi makapag-board pa sila ng mga Pilipino sa mga barko maglalayag sa delikadong lugar katulad ng Red Sea at Gulf of Aden. So, nakasuspindi po sila ngayon.
We have more stories for you right after this break. The big story will be right back. Stay tuned.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. 9 years ago, the Permanent Court of Arbitration under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea delivered a landmark ruling in the Philippines' favor on disputed claims in the West Philippine Sea. The ruling effectively clarified issues, narrowed disputed areas, invalidated China's 9-dash line and historical claims, and defined maritime features in the also contested Spratly Islands. Until today, China refuses to honor this ruling. Tensions continue to escalate, with Beijing accusing the Philippines of provocation. Marking the anniversary, the Department of National Defense reaffirmed its commitment to uphold the 2016 ruling. Secretary Gilbert Teodoro also said the arbitral ruling is a simple yet powerful reminder that the rule of law matters, especially in the face of harassment. Teodoro stressed that under the ruling, defending the country's sovereign rights and jurisdiction is not an act of provocation, but a sacred and fundamental duty of the Republic and a responsibility to the nation. And we welcome tonight's guest back to our studio, maritime security expert and director of Sea Light Gordian Knot Center for National Security Innovation at Stanford University. Hello and good evening, Ray. Welcome back to the program. You delivered a speech earlier at the annual commemoration of the arbitral ruling on China's disinformation. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So usually I talk about maritime things. I track ships, of course. Yeah. But over the past couple of years, I have collected these accusations, mostly against me and Sea Light. Depending on whom you ask, I'm either part of the military-industrial complex, or I'm a CIA agent, or and so over a period of time, I started comparing the messages that were coming out of China's own state media to some of the ones that would appear in certain Philippine publications as op-eds and those kinds of things. And, wow, these are really similar. And to go, to the point that there was one that was put in the Global Times, China's state media, and one put in the Manila Standard that were, and frankly, in many ways, virtually identical by two different authors in two different newspapers in two different countries.
You would attribute that to China?
Look, it's one of two things. Either the Manila Standard, Rod Kapunan, was a very bad plagiarist, or it was a coordinated effort to put the same content in two different publications.
What was the content?
It was essentially, it was around the time that Lloyd Austin and Secretary Blinken came to the Philippines, and it was essentially saying that this is going to provoke China, and this is all being organized and orchestrated by Ray Powell, and it was a lot of the same things. It was just the very interesting thing. They were produced about 4 days apart, and again, the content was just stunningly similar.
Because this is what Senator Tolentino had been saying in many of his Senate hearings.
Yeah.
And eventually got him barred from the country. But what are the other incidents of disinformation?
Well, so, I mean, this is the messaging that really Beijing has been pushing is kind of typical of what we've seen, and it goes in conjunction with the gray zone activity. China wants the Philippines to accept that there's just really no resisting China, that any effort to push back is its own provocation, that the United States is here as an outside agitator, and that if
that's the storyline.
That's the narrative, yes. And so I seem to fit very conveniently into this narrative because, in case you didn't notice, I am American, and I am a former military officer, and so I think they've sort of picked up on me as a convenient way to sell this story.
Okay, Ray, over the last 9 years, this information has gotten more and more prevalent, I suppose is the word. Even today, I saw a post by Huang Xilian, and he was saying that, we did it first. We occupied islands in the Spratlys in the 70s. I'm not sure if you saw that post.
So I didn't see it. Look.
But you're familiar with it.
Well, I mean, so it's true, there was an island scramble back in the 70s and 80s. Lots of countries were sort of occupying features. That's never, been at issue. So that's why when I first started studying the South China Sea in the late 80s, what we were all worried about was who had their flag planted on which feature. What's different today than back then is that we've never seen somebody try to control all the water before. And that's what China is now doing. So it's not just that they have their flag on this feature and the Philippines has one on this feature and Vietnam has one on that feature. It's that they are beginning to create exclusion zones and trying to keep the Philippines away from certain things that it considers sensitive.
Okay. Toward the end of that post of Huang Xilian, he did say he favored a bilateral mechanism instead of talking it over, instead of the UNCLOS, which they are, of course, as we all know, they are a signatory to.
So China has sort of taken UNCLOS and said, yeah, we signed up to that, but of course you can't possibly mean within the 9-dash line because everybody knows that belongs to China. Well, that's pretty much why UNCLOS exists, is to keep somebody from doing that. So what the arbitral award did was it basically came in and said, no, if you apply UNCLOS the way it's written, it is clearly, and it scopes out exactly, the 9-dash line means nothing. And China knew that's what the conclusion had to be, which is why they just said, we're not participating.
So is a bilateral mechanism that is in effect now between Manila and Beijing, is that just all like a waste of...
No, you have to do those things, but I think what you have to realize is one reason that China really likes bilateral mechanisms is they can walk in as the large power, and the Philippines walks in as the smaller power, and they believe they can get more of what they want that way.
Well, Ray, the prevailing question is, why is China not just, honoring this arbitral ruling, right, 9 years on? And I believe you had a conversation with Defense Secretary Gibot Teodoro about that. And we actually have this clip, so let's listen to this.
I think China's actions have been the strongest factor for convergence against it. And might I say that I sort of feel that their leadership will owe their people a big responsibility in the future for their actions, and it is due to the actions of symbolically one person, Xi Jinping, and his autocratic rule of a monolithic party, which Chinese people have no choice but to follow.
Well, strong statements there coming from Secretary Teodoro.
He does not mince words. Yeah. He is careful in what he says, but he is strong in what he says. And I really think this is kind of unarguable. China has succeeded by its aggression over the last several years especially in creating a block of nations against it, which is the one thing that it says that it hates, right? So, if you go back 3 or 4 years, then this part of the world might have seemed kind of obscure to a lot of people in the West and in other places. Now they're looking out and they're seeing increasing alignment between the Philippines, of course the United States, but also Japan and Australia.
There were 12 ambassadors in attendance earlier. That should say how much cooperation we are getting and support.
And so China has created the monster that they were trying to avoid simply by the means of their aggression. Look, and the Philippines played such a crucial part in that whole thing because the Philippines did a very, very simple thing. It turned on the cameras.
Well, Ray, you pointed out that China will also never agree to a legally binding code of conduct unless they're the ones setting the terms.
Right.
So at this point, do you believe the Philippines has any leverage? What would be a strategic alternative to that? Is it to isolate Beijing and form this coalition with other like-minded nations?
I believe that the Philippines is actually playing this very well. Understanding they have a very large and aggressive power that is essentially carrying out an occupation of the West Philippine Sea in many ways. So there are large parts of the West Philippine Sea that are becoming inaccessible to the Philippines. For example, Scarborough Shoal is essentially they have basically an exclusion zone around Scarborough Shoal. So when you have an occupying force, the best thing to do is be patient, right? Because occupations wear out when the occupier eventually starts asking themselves, why are we doing this? What is this gaining us, right? Okay, so we control a lot of water, so what? And meanwhile, what we're doing is we're uniting the world against us. We're creating for ourselves all kinds of economic and other diplomatic and other political problems. And by the way, we have other things to worry about. So essentially, I mean, and this is how occupations end.
We wear them out.
You do, and it's a little frustrating, right? It's frustrating from the part of the occupied, country. But I mean, look at India, right? Mahatma Gandhi basically carried out a decades-long peaceful, a nonviolent protest against the British occupation, right? It took decades. Yeah. But they were successful in the end. And eventually they wore the British out. The British looked around and they say, why are we doing this?
We've also seen changes, though, in the 9 years since the arbitral award. We saw Japan now willing to get into the fray, sort of, still guarded in their own
recently being harassed by China, the planes of the self-defense forces of Japan.
Senkaku. And then today, at your forum, India announced that they want to do joint patrols as well. That's unheard of. We also know they have kind of a tiff with China at their border. And Australia, again, pledged, I think, over $100 million worth of equipment.
Yeah, and so why, and if you look out there, it's not like everybody suddenly has more money or more capability that they have to spread around. They're focused in on the Philippines because what they've seen is, one is the Philippines is willing to stand up and work with them, and two, the Philippines is where the need is, right? So when they look around and they think, well, we could give our money over here, but here's where it could be really effective.
So we're doing it right this time.
So, okay, this is Ray Powell's opinion. No, I really do think so. And you could certainly
because we don't have the money for defense, so this is the right way.
I mean, that goes back to my conversation with Secretary Teodoro. We talked about what did he essentially want his legacy to be. And he said, look, when we finally turn it over to the next group that comes in, I want them to think that we have helped to create the outlines of a credible deterrent. And he used that word several times, a credible deterrent. Because in the end, what you want is a large power like China to look at the Philippines and say, yeah, I could push them around, but there's risk there, and it's not worth the risk. And in order to do that, you have to be able to present them with something that's going to be risky for them.
Because we have all these allies behind us.
The allies, and of course, if you are able to, say, bring in mid-range missiles, for example, if you're able to increase the number of fighter aircraft, if you're able to bring, he really would like to get air warning and control system aircraft, AWACS aircraft, and air refueling aircraft. So these are things that he would like to see. But again, those plus that network of allies and partners that begins to make the Philippines look like a much harder target.
Right. But if we zoom in on the ASEAN, we're kind of the outlier there, right? And you know that, Ray.
I do. Yeah.
Tell us more about our position in the ASEAN where we're standing alone, and most of our ASEAN neighbors are actually on China's side.
What I said today at the forum was, I think that the Philippines' role in ASEAN is to be ASEAN's backbone. There are, various degrees of squishiness around ASEAN, and look, every country in the end acts in its own national interest. That's not new. I'm not breaking any big story here, right? That's what countries do. And so, countries that are further away from China, who have maybe less of those acute issues that the Philippines has, are able to sort of step back and say, we can sort of let the Philippines flounder on their own. Okay, sure. So you're not going to get the kind of support you're getting from Japan and Australia and even India from the ASEAN countries. Okay, But it's good that somebody in ASEAN is standing up and somebody shows up at the ASEAN meetings and says, look, we are a member of this organization and we are being harassed. We are being pushed around. Somebody needs to say that, and that seems to be the Philippines' role.
Okay, we now are showing the slide presentation you made earlier about Chinese disinformation, because I guess they are approaching this on a multi-pronged dimension. You know, disinformation, you have the harassment, you have the flights, etc., island building. Okay.
And so, look, I went through and I said, look, here are the messages that are coming out of the Beijing, their state media. And then here are some of these Philippine voices that are saying essentially the same things. And then I went through and I talked about those two side-by-side op-eds and gave specific examples of each, where if you look at them very carefully, they're using the exact same phrases to describe the same things. And it's almost scary how much, I mean, you're almost thinking they should have worked a little harder to keep them different, right? I mean, maybe just, I don't know, throw them into ChatGPT and have them come up with different words. I think they just got lazy a little bit, but it sort of indicated to me that there is coordination in this messaging.
How much does this echo, and I asked you this in the dressing room earlier, how much does this echo, the foreign ministry briefings? Because we hear quite a lot there. The same kind of a nuancing. This has gone on for decades as well.
I just thought maybe you were trying to create a scandal by saying I was in your dressing room. But,
we were all there. The makeup room.
No, I mean, look, I spent 6 years in embassies. I am used to Chinese official, pronouncements on things. They tend to have a certain edge to them. Oftentimes we would say in fact, I mean, so look, just as an example, look at this whole kerfuffle all about the film down in New Zealand, where the Chinese embassy went out and tried to tell the Kiwis not to let the film be shown. Frankly, that's dumb, right? I mean, if you want everybody to forget about this little documentary, say nothing. But they seem unable to do that. And I think the whole incentive structure around Chinese diplomats, Chinese military officers, is we should show we're as patriotic as possible at all times. So they have to say something, even when the best thing for them to have done would have been to say nothing and hopefully just let the film go along and sort of, not too popular. But now everybody's talking about it.
Well, Ray, we talked about ASEAN. I wanted to discuss and zoom in on the United States. There are longtime allies, and yet they've maintained this policy of strategic ambiguity for a long time now. Does it still serve its purpose of maintaining regional stability, or is it time for Washington to take a firmer stance when it comes to supporting the sovereignty of the Philippines?
How many times do we have to hear the ironclad?
Shoulder to shoulder.
I am not here to stand and give the U.S. diplomatic speech. I am no longer a government service. Look, I have argued that the United States should take a more concrete stand on the Philippines' behalf. The specific thing that I have argued that the U.S. should start with is I have argued for a medical civic action mission out to Pagasa. These things, we do these all the time. We go out, we take a C-130 transport aircraft, put a bunch of doctors and engineers on it, send them out, they fix up the school and the clinic, they pull teeth and check eyes and all those kinds of things, they treat disease. And it's a great way to show solidarity and concern. There is a civilian population out there, and at the same time say, and by the way, we are recognizing that the Philippines has administrative control over Pagasa. We don't even have to say, that the Philippines has sovereignty. I mean, I know that would be a big step. And the reason that nobody ever did that before was, remember I talked about it in the late 80s when nobody wanted to get into the whole who owns what rock thing, right? It was like, let's just everybody stay where they are. But we're not in that time anymore. What China has been doing has been so aggressive. And the people of Pagasa wake up every morning and stare across the water at a China Coast Guard ship and several dozen maritime militia. Very imposing right out there. They've got that big air and naval base at Subi Reef right on the other side. It's time for the United States to go out and say, We recognize the Philippines.
Why not?
Yeah, why do you reckon they haven't done anything?
I think a lot of it's inertia, right? I mean, there are people who have done this for a long time, and they tend to think, look, things are fine as they are. And what my argument is, actually, they're not fine.
The president will be meeting with our president and yours will be meeting soon, and surely this will be on the agenda.
I don't know. So I don't set their agenda.
Yeah, but I'm sure President Marcos will
The West Philippine
bring it
Sea
up.
will, of course, be on the agenda. Ray Powell's idea about Pagasa,
Marco
I
Rubio
would
is
like
going to
to
be
think-
in the meeting. So.
Well, you know, I mean, I think that they clearly will talk about the West Philippine Sea. That's what President Marcos talks about when he goes internationally, and why wouldn't he talk about the West Philippine Sea? It is the Philippines' #1 security concern, so of course they will.
What should he bring home?
Aside from a discount
A
on the tariff
17%.
deal.
Below
Below 7,
number
apart
one
from
on the agenda.
So, you know, actually, look, I think that what he ought to do is go and study the recent footage of Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, D.C. He seems to be the Trump whisperer these days. Last term it was Shinzo Abe. This time it's Benjamin Netanyahu. There are ways to work with Donald Trump that work, and you know, he is a very unique person. And so it's good to study the tape of the people who do it well.
Great advice.
I know. I hope they're watching.
Thank you so much. It's always
you,
a
Ces.
pleasure to have you. That was maritime security expert Ray Powell.
All right, moving on to other news. It's not even the end of his first day as the newest PCO chief, and here is Dave Gomez having to defend his appointment over his previous stint at a tobacco company. Some sectors are opposing Gomez's appointment even as he took his oath already as the 5th PCO head under Marcos. And while he worked as a journalist for over a decade, Gomez served the better half of his career as communications chief for Philip Morris International Philippines. Senator Pia Cayetano is concerned that naming a tobacco executive to the post would send the wrong signal to the youth, who are highly vulnerable to tobacco and vape products. And while civil society organizations and health advocacy groups describe Gomez's appointment as a serious conflict of interest, Gomez would undermine the very principles of public service, the groups claimed. But the new PCO chief said the time will come where he will respond to all accusations.
I respect other people's opinion. If that's their opinion, I will respect that. Maybe in the right forum, the proper forum, I will respond to that. But again, this is not about me. This is about the president and how we socialize his programs.
All right, we're going to be pausing for another very quick break, but when we return, Presidents Bongbong Marcos and Donald Trump are finally meeting face-to-face in 9 days. On top of that agenda, tariffs, trade, and security. We have details when the big story returns. Keep it here.
Welcome back to the big story. We circle back to one of our headlines: government agencies trying to curb gambling promotion. And let's discuss this further with DICT's Assistant Secretary Aboy Paraiso, who's also Deputy Executive Director of the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, or CICC. Good evening and welcome to the big story.
Good evening, ladies. Let me correct that. I'm no longer with the ICT. I solely serve as the Deputy Executive Secretary of CICC. But thank you again for having me here in your show.
All right. Well, since your main task is really to go after those violating our cybercrime laws, it seems that you're having difficulty going after the illegal gaming platforms, online gaming platforms. There are about, they make about half of what the PAGCOR makes from the legal online gaming platforms.
Well, it's not about the difficulty of trying to go after them. I cannot really, because again, they're valid license holders, and unless there's a new law that would prohibit
No, I was referring to to the illegal ones, those that use
Oh.
IP addresses outside the country?
Yeah. Well, yes. First and foremost, I think the nature of the criminal enterprise is the one that's giving us challenges. For example, here in the Philippines, most of the back end, the promotions happen here in the Philippines. The gaming happens here in the Philippines. But if you follow the money trail, follow the administration, it's always outside the country. So that is the thing that stomps us when it comes to going after these illegal online gaming platforms. But there are still some that operations, everything is in house here in the Philippines.
Just to give us a better context as well as to our viewers, do I call you ED Aboy now? I get confused.
It's executive director.
Yeah. Yes,
correct.
ED
Yeah,
Aboy.
yeah.
the
It's Deputy
CICC.
Executive Director. Yeah.
Okay.
Deputy Executive Director. But ASIC is fine also because
Okay.
it has the rank of ASIC. Yeah.
All right.
Whatever
Okay.
you're comfortable with.
Okay, so we'll stick to ASEC Aboy. We got used to that.
Kasi DED, di parang dead na naman
Oo,
yun.
ang pangit.
Dead na naman. Yeah.
Okay, so may illegal ASEC. How does a player know na illegal ito? I've heard there's links on Facebook. Are those Matic illegal or?
No. Also, the legal ones also try to advertise because again, they're really the ones, one of the victims of these illegal gaming platforms here and gaming sites here in the Philippines. They try to fight fire with fire. They also advertise during on social media platforms. So to answer your question, no, it doesn't mean if they advertise or if they see it on social media platforms, they're automatically illegal.
So how would you know if you're...
more simpler.
Yeah, how do you know that you're playing on an illegal site? Because kung maglalaro ka na lang, syempre doon ka na lang
Pero
sa
I
legal.
wonder then if it matters to the player.
Does it? What's the difference?
Diba?
Yeah.
Parang you just wanna
Yeah.
play.
Well, that's where information comes in. For example, to answer first, how do you know? It's easy. There's a list inside the PAGCOR's website that I plan really to amplify in all our websites as well as the social media platforms if we're really going to go after these illegal online gaming platforms. But to answer if it matters, it should matter because most of these illegal online gaming platforms are unregulated and therefore they are not subject to any scrutiny and therefore they can rig the games and kawawa naman yung nagtataya. They don't know kung nadadaya sila. They have no security if they are being duped or they're being cheated on these gaming platforms.
Asik, I wanted to ask about numbers. For every illegal online gambling site that the CICC takes down or goes after, how many more resurface and how quickly do they pop back up?
This is funny, but it's one of those nuances that whenever I take down these sites, they just migrate to another site. But there's disruption. Definitely, there's disruption there because whenever they do this, whenever they migrate to another site, they have to inform other players and have to migrate them and shepherd them to the site, which takes a lot of time also and resources. So, but for me, I think the ultimate solution would be really going after these online gaming platforms, form a solution with other countries that experience the same, because what we're experiencing here in the Philippines is also being experienced by first world countries when it comes to a lot of online harms, whether it's online gambling, whether it's child trafficking. A lot of these things are, the criminal enterprises take advantage of this jurisdictional nightmare where the money comes in from one place, the administration is another, the victims is another. Remember, there's a scam hub that was raided in Cebu.
Right.
They don't victimize Filipinos. They victimize South Africa. So that's what we're facing, ladies.
And ASIC, this latest order for content creators, influencers to take down their content that feature these illegal apps, is it just for illegal gambling or pati yung mga legal na endorsements?
Well, I cannot go after the ones that are legal. Like they have valid licenses. And to be fair, and I'll echo the point of Chairman Altenco, it is a valid source of revenue for the country. So, I cannot really go after something that's legal. So
we've talked to a bunch of people about trying to para sumpuin na tong mga illegal operators. Asik, do you think like telco blocking is the easiest way, or yung mga ISP block na lang yung sites? Of course, they're gonna pop up again. Pero would that be kind of the best solution?
No, because again, that's merely disruption. From our experience and from what we see, nakapondo na yung mga websites sila. So if we take down one, nakaredy na yung susunod. So that's the problem there. But again, I think the solution really would be show government's effort that it's serious in the crackdown of these illegal gaming platforms. If they're here or if their back end is here, we go after them. Then see a way to cooperate with other countries when it comes to the other parts of the criminal enterprise in other countries. So
Okay, but
I think
may you clarify? May you clarify, sir? Is the ban on ads only on the illegal, or does it also apply to those who are with licenses, the legal operators? May you clarify?
I think it's only with the illegal platforms. Like I said, there's we have no jurisdiction over things that are granted permits and licenses by our own government, and these such as these.
But I do understand that PAGCOR Chairman Altenco wants, is cognizant of the social cost, and so there will continue to be players even if you don't advertise.
Yes, first and foremost, I do agree and share the observation and position of Chairman Altenco. We recognize the social ills, the social cost that gambling per se, not just illegal gambling, but gambling per se poses to the country. But again, it's a balancing of interest when it comes to revenue generation and social ills. That's why I think it's important that we really enforce these mechanisms. For example, strengthened know your client. When it comes to the legal ones, I don't think we'll have a problem with the legal franchise holders of gaming platforms. So a strengthened KYC, a strengthened restriction when it comes to children going into their platforms, and whatever other regulation the government deems it necessary later on. So I think it's easier there. But again, the challenge is the more accessible ones, the ones that really do the social harms and ills, are the illegal ones.
And tell us about the kind of content that's available on social media featuring illegal gaming operators. Marami ba talaga?
Well, yes, because halo-halo na eh. It's a mix of traditional casino games, traditional games that, for example, may pusoy, may madyo. Minsan nga, inanay ko, kailangan pigilan eh. So these are the types of games, and there's a variety of them, and it makes it more appealing to the gamers in their country.
So kung di nila tinanggal yung content nila by the weekend, ASEC, what's going to happen to them? Legal action, I know, but exactly what?
So we're talking about the influencers. So since last week, nakikiusap ako. I was pleading to them to stop it because, I think they are cognizant and they are aware ano yung kasamaan ho ng pagpo-promote nito and the accessibility of the platforms themselves dito sa mga kabataan. In fact, I think tinatarget talaga nila yung mga bata because that's the majority of their followings. So, nakiusap ako pero kanina I gave a deadline. So what time is it now? It's 8 o'clock, just past. By 12 o'clock, I instructed my team to document everyone that still has illegal gambling content uploaded, streaming illegal gaming content. So come Monday, it's not only giving them a letter to explain why we should not file cases with them, but like I said, I'm very thankful that in this fight I have the support of the social media platforms. So I'm hoping once I write them on Monday, they would comply to not only take down the content but the channels.
If not, what?
Well, if not, then again, it's the same thing. It's endless bickering between social media platforms and the government. So that's what we're experiencing right now.
What's the penalty? What's the penalty?
Well, when it comes to now we go on to the legal aspect of it. If we can consider, and this is the theory of the CICC, in collaboration with other government regulators, is these influencers are co-principals of these criminal enterprises. So it really depends. There are cases of estafa. So some of it are when we can prove the elements are non-bailable, or bail is a matter of no longer a matter of right. So that's one. The penalty ranges from as little as 60 days to as much as life imprisonment. So that's the range of the penalties. But one thing they have to remember, and I keep emphasizing this, it doesn't mean that I file a case against you under the revised penal code or under the special laws. It's exclusive of one another. No, I can file them simultaneously with each other. Then, I balloon up the charges against you, and then hopefully we get a conviction, and the penalty be substantial.
So let's be clear. You'll write if they refuse still to take down their ads, you will write them on Monday. And how much lead time are you giving them to follow to heed your warning before you file?
Well, being a practitioner of law for several years, I think 5 days is enough for them to heed.
So, Asek, you have identified these influencers already, and can we know are they big-time content creators or are they micro-influencers? Para kung makita rin po namin sila sa feed namin, we could probably help in reporting these illegal ads.
Well, my theory would always be that I cannot...
But are they big-time content creators?
At least, I'm being fair to everyone. No, but being serious for a while, it's my theory that I always cannot go after them all at the same time. But I go after the heads of the snake, so to speak, the big ones, those who have a lot of following. So most of these, I call them Pied Pipers. Most of these big influencers also have a following of other influencers under them. In fact, if you can see, there's a whole network of them. You don't get to see just one influencer in one house doing live stream, but a whole slew of them. So I'm targeting this. So I would send an example and show that there's a real urgency and seriousness about government's efforts to stop illegal gambling.
All right. We thank you for your time. Deputy Executive Director of the CICC, Aboy Paraiso. Thank you. Now moving on to other news, Malacanang confirms that President Marcos will visit the United States from July 20 to 22. U.S. State Secretary Marco Rubio first announced this during the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur. America's top diplomat held a trilateral talk with DFA Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro and the Foreign Minister of Japan, after which he praised both countries for their strong ties with the U.S. This will be the 5th time that Marcos sets foot on America's soil and the first since Donald Trump reclaimed the White House. Marcos's diplomatic immunity shields him from being detained, stemming from a long-standing contempt order worth $353 million. PBBM took part in the UN General Assembly in New York in September 2022, a bilateral meeting with former U.S. leader Joe Biden in May 2023, and the 30th APEC Summit in California in November 2023, and a trilateral summit with the heads of state of Washington and Tokyo in April 2024. Details for this visit are still being hashed out.
Okay, pina-finalize po kasi yung detalye. At sinabi ko nga po, kino-confirm po, hindi ko po dinidinay, kino-confirm po ang pagbisita po ng ating Pangulo at sa US, July 20 to 2020. Tama, 22. July 20 to 22. Pero po, confirm. Pero po, yung yung detalye na pag-uusapan, ang DFA na po ang magbibigay sa inyo.
Marcos's U.S. visit comes as a Philippine delegation will also be flying to Washington next week to appeal the increase in tariffs on Philippine imports. Trump made the surprise decision to increase the country's levies to 20% effective August 1st, though the rate is still the second lowest in Asia after Singapore. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque tells One News anchor Kathy Yang this Friday that even though Marcos won't join them in the trade talks, having him personally meet with Trump would bolster their case.
Of course, having the president, there's always a positive, it's always something positive and something that we can really look forward to. But then again, we still have to wait until next week and see how everything will unfold.
Led by Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs, Frederick Go, the delegation has been in touch with the U.S. since May to bring down the tariff rate to 0 and negotiate a free trade agreement. Roque says amid the shock of Trump's decision, It ain't over until it is over.
The 20%, we're still lower than our, of course, our neighboring countries. But of course, it's not something that we expected. But we are still in the negotiating table. We are actually leaving next week, so it's still not over. So it's hard for us to speculate at this time. It's also hard for us to give our. We cannot give any information yet because there's really nothing yet until we get to talk to our counterparts next week. And then once we get feedback, definitely we will let the Filipino people know.
And for our big picture tonight, no less than U.S. President Donald Trump, this time in a hero's costume. And yes, the White House really posted this on its official X account. And here is a very buffed American president as the Man of Steel with a caption that goes, "The symbol of hope, truth, justice, the American way, Superman Trump." Criticism was swift, with the most people surprised that the White House would actually post an image that is not even parody. We're quoting some reactions such as, "He's literally Lex Luthor," and "craziness normalized." One of the harshest comments to the Super Trump picture reads, "When you have betrayed your base on every issue in 6 months, you don't apologize, you put on a cape and pray that the cult still claps." He still has red hair. I'm not used to that. Superman. But there is a new one coming out,
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna watch it actually after the show.
Oh, yeah, it's out now.
Yeah.
Tell us if it's worth... Ay? Makiki-third wheel pa ako. Grabe.
Pahingi na lang tayo na review muna. Wow. Saan yan?
Ayoko naman mag-third
Pwede ba sumama?
Hindi pa tinatos, pero
Didn't
there's a
that
voice
image
speaking.
of Trump ruin your,
I know. That's why when I saw the photo, I was like...
Pero cute yung bagong Superman.
Yes, yes.
Ito, wash her eyes.
Okay.
All right, and that's it for the big story this week. Thank you so much for watching.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
We'll be back here Monday at 7:30. Good night and have a great weekend, everyone.